Most of the time, a woman puts her happiness on the back burner and pleases her family and her spouse. Majority of the time, the woman is sacrificing more than the man in the relationship.
For years, Deitrick Haddon has been one of gospel music's most talked about voices. From chart-topping songs to public controversies, his life has often made headlines. But now, fresh attention has turned to the woman who knows him better than anyone else. At 53, Deitrick Haddon's wife is finally speaking openly about their journey together, sharing details that have surprised many fans and sparked new conversations. What did she reveal? And why has it caught so many people off guard? Join us in this video as we take a closer look at the story behind the headlines. Breaking the silence after years of pressure. Life in the public eye is rarely as glamorous as it seems, and according to Deitrick Haddon's wife, that reality comes with a price many people never see. She began by explaining that marrying someone with a public ministry means giving up much of your privacy. Over time, personal moments stop feeling personal. Ordinary disagreements become rumors. Quiet seasons spark endless questions, and even the smallest decisions are picked apart by people who only see a small part of the story. She said many people forget that pastors and ministry leaders are not just public figures. They are husbands, wives, parents, and families trying to navigate real emotions, real struggles, and real responsibilities behind the scenes. She also spoke about the emotional weight that had been building for years. The pressure, she explained, did not only come from social media or online critics. Much of it came from inside the church itself. Every staffing decision, every new direction in ministry, and every change in leadership was carefully watched and often misunderstood. As time passed, speculation began moving faster than communication. She suggested that trust did not weaken because of one dramatic event or shocking scandal. Instead, it slowly faded as people filled in the gaps with their own assumptions before hearing the full story. One of the biggest misunderstandings, she said, centered on the phrase that had spread across social media and church discussions: the church collapsed. According to her, many people took those words literally, assuming they referred to financial disaster or the closing of a church building. She made it clear that this was not what she meant. The real collapse, as she described it, was emotional and relational rather than physical. Stability became harder to maintain. Confidence began to shake. Public perception started replacing reality. She explained that when leaders are constantly questioned but cannot respond to every rumor, small cracks can grow into much larger divisions. She admitted that many of the decisions made during that season were intended to protect both the ministry and the people involved. Yet from the outside, those same choices were sometimes viewed as secrecy instead of wisdom. Silence, which was meant to prevent unnecessary conflict, often created even more questions. Looking back, she said the burden of carrying those misunderstandings eventually became too heavy to keep inside. Her decision to finally speak did not happen overnight. She explained that it followed many difficult conversations, countless prayers, and long periods of reflection. For a long time, remaining silent seemed like the faithful thing to do. She believed that not every challenge needed to be discussed publicly, but eventually she reached the point where silence no longer protected anyone. Instead, it allowed stories, assumptions, and false narratives to grow without correction. She realized that protecting her family and the ministry sometimes meant accepting criticism in order to share her perspective. What stood out most about her statement was not what she revealed, but what she chose to leave unsaid. She did not accuse anyone of wrongdoing. She did not expose private conversations or point fingers at specific people. Instead, she acknowledged that leadership is complicated. Ministry carries enormous pressure, and no one involved is perfect. She spoke about difficult discussions that had taken place behind closed doors concerning healthy boundaries, long-term sustainability, and the future direction of the ministry. While she avoided sharing personal details, she suggested that change became necessary, not because everything had failed, but because adjustments were needed to keep moving forward. She also spoke directly to members of the congregation. Recognizing the disappointment and uncertainty many had experienced, she acknowledged that people had invested years of faith, service, and trust into the ministry. When things appeared unstable from the outside, it naturally left many people with questions. Still, she encouraged them not to let headlines define the entire story. Instead, she reminded them that faith has never been built on flawless people, but on principles that remain steady even during difficult seasons. Her comments quickly spread online, and the response was immediate. Clips from her remarks appeared across social media, followed by countless reactions, opinions, and debates. Some viewers expressed compassion, saying they had never fully considered the emotional cost of leading a ministry while living under constant public attention. Others connected her words to unverified rumors that had already been circulating, adding fresh layers of speculation without clear evidence. Within a short time, blogs and gospel media outlets began reporting on portions of her statement. In many cases, only selected quotes were shared, leaving out the broader context of what she had actually tried to communicate. Inside the church community, reactions reportedly varied. Some leaders acknowledged that the ministry had experienced an especially challenging season and pointed to increased meetings, organizational changes, and closer communication as responsible efforts to guide the church through a period of transition. Others stressed that these kinds of adjustments are common within growing ministries and should not automatically be viewed as signs of collapse. But once public opinion began forming online, it became increasingly difficult for balanced explanations to receive the same attention as the rumors. Amid all the discussion, several pastors and ministry voices encouraged people to slow down before reaching conclusions. They reminded audiences that not every difficult season points to hidden scandals, and not every quiet period should be treated as evidence of wrongdoing. Their message echoed the heart of what Deitrick Haddon's wife appeared to be saying all along. Sometimes what seems like collapse from the outside is simply a season of rebuilding and restructuring on the inside. Rather than ending the conversation, her statement opened an even larger one. It raised questions about how churches are viewed in today's digital world, where short clips and headlines often shape public opinion before complete information becomes available. It also challenged people to think carefully about the line between accountability and intrusion. How much of a family's private struggle should become public? When does healthy curiosity become unfair judgment? And how often is silence mistaken for guilt when it may simply be an attempt to protect others? Whether people agreed with every part of her message or not, her words shifted the focus of the discussion. The story became less about rumors and more about the pressures that come with leadership, the fragile nature of public trust, and the reality that even strong ministries can face seasons of strain without completely falling apart. Her decision to speak was presented not as an attempt to create drama, but as an effort to share her perspective after years of carrying the weight quietly. In doing so, she left many people with a reminder that is easy to overlook. Ministries are built by human beings. Human beings grow tired. Human beings make difficult decisions. And sometimes, finding the courage to speak is the only way to keep silence from becoming a story of its own. How did Deitrick Haddon react to what his wife had to say? Keep watching to find out. The Sunday service that left everyone speechless. It began as what appeared to be a normal Sunday morning. Church members gathered for worship, voices filled the sanctuary with familiar gospel songs, and the atmosphere reflected what many had experienced countless times before. No one expected that within a matter of minutes, the service would become the center of intense public attention. According to the story that quickly spread online, the focus shifted away from the music and toward Deitrick Haddon himself, in a way that left the congregation stunned. Reports circulating on social media claimed that Haddon, widely recognized for his energetic preaching style and confident presence, suddenly appeared overwhelmed while standing before the church. Witnesses described him as looking visibly distressed before losing his composure. Within seconds, concern spread throughout the room as church leaders and those nearby rushed to assist him. The mood changed almost instantly. What had started as a joyful worship service reportedly became a moment filled with uncertainty, confusion, and heartfelt concern. Those present were left trying to understand exactly what had happened. Some believed they were watching a medical emergency unfold in real time. Others wondered if the weight of ongoing pressure had finally become too much to carry. As conversations continued both inside and outside the church, many people suggested that emotional exhaustion may have played a role, though public speculation quickly began moving faster than confirmed information. What made the situation even more dramatic was the claim that the emotional moment followed comments reportedly made by his wife. According to accounts that circulated online, her words addressed personal struggles and the challenges they had faced behind the scenes. While many versions of the story appeared across social media, not all of them agreed on exactly what was said, and several details remained unverified. Even so, many viewers believed the timing of her remarks added another emotional layer to an already difficult moment. Members of the congregation were reportedly caught completely off guard. For many, it was difficult to process what they believed they had just witnessed. Some later described the atmosphere as unlike anything they had ever experienced in church. There was shock, silence, and confusion as people searched for answers while trying to make sense of the unfolding situation. For those who had attended expecting an ordinary service, it became a day they would not soon forget. As clips and eyewitness accounts spread across the internet, millions of people joined the conversation. Short videos were shared repeatedly across multiple platforms, with viewers offering opinions, prayers, criticism, and countless theories. Within hours, the incident had become a trending topic far beyond the church community. Supporters expressed concern for Haddon's well-being, while critics questioned whether deeper issues existed behind the scenes. The online discussion grew rapidly, often mixing confirmed information with speculation, making it increasingly difficult for people to separate fact from rumor. Part of the reason the story gained so much attention was because of the image Haddon had built over many years in ministry. Throughout his career, he had been known as a passionate preacher, gospel artist, and spiritual leader who often encouraged others to remain strong through life's hardest moments. His confidence, energy, and ability to inspire people became central to how many viewed him. Seeing someone who had encouraged countless others suddenly appear vulnerable challenged that perception and reminded many that even respected leaders face moments of weakness. For supporters, the incident became a reminder that pastors carry pressures the public rarely sees. Every sermon, leadership decision, and personal struggle can become the subject of public discussion, leaving little room to process difficult seasons privately. Others viewed the moment differently, believing it raised important questions about transparency, leadership, and the personal cost of living under constant public attention. Adding even more emotion to the conversation were the reported statements from Haddon's wife. Rather than focusing only on the moment itself, many people began discussing the broader issues surrounding ministry, marriage, and the pressures that come with leading a church while living in the public eye. Whether people agreed with her perspective or not, her comments encouraged many to think beyond the headlines and consider the human side of leadership. As the discussion continued to unfold online, one thing became increasingly clear. People were no longer talking only about a difficult moment during a church service. They were talking about the emotional weight carried by public figures, the expectations placed on ministry families, and the challenge of balancing private struggles with public responsibility. The story had grown into something much larger than a single Sunday morning, leaving many wondering what would happen next and whether the full picture had yet to be revealed. But why did this emotional moment spread far beyond the church walls? Let's find out. When private struggles become public conversations. Ministry and relationship experts often note that when personal struggles involve public leaders, resolving them becomes far more difficult. Every disagreement can attract attention, and public opinion can quickly make an already painful situation even harder to navigate. As reports about the incident spread, social media only intensified the discussion. Clips of Haddon's reported collapse and his wife's remarks were shared thousands of times, triggering passionate reactions. Supporters expressed concern for his emotional well-being, while others questioned whether such personal matters should have been addressed during a church service. Soon, the conversation extended far beyond the congregation, reaching gospel fans, critics, and ministry leaders around the world. The situation became even more complicated because Haddon served as both a pastor and gospel artist. Every response, every decision, and every public appearance came under intense scrutiny. Combined with the widely shared footage, the reported allegations blurred the line between private family matters and public ministry, leaving many to wrestle with difficult questions about leadership, accountability, trust, and vulnerability. How would Deitrick Haddon respond after that unforgettable emotional moment? Stay tuned to find out. Facing the fallout. After the emotional moment. After the reported collapse during the church service, Deitrick Haddon's focus appeared to shift from protecting his public image to simply regaining his composure. According to those who said they witnessed the moment, church leaders and family members quickly came to his side and helped him leave the stage. Several accounts described him as visibly emotional, unsteady, and overwhelmed by everything unfolding around him. Whether viewed as a physical response, an emotional reaction, or a combination of both, the incident became a striking reminder of how years of personal and public pressure can collide in a single moment. Not long afterward, Haddon addressed the situation through public statements and social media. While he acknowledged that an emotional event had taken place, he chose not to discuss every private detail surrounding it. Instead, he thanked members of his congregation and supporters who had reached out with prayers and encouragement. He also shared that he needed time to process both the circumstances surrounding the reported allegations and the emotions that came with them. In later interviews, he reflected on the challenges of living as both a pastor and a public figure, explaining that ministry often brings pressures few people fully understand until personal struggles unfold in front of an audience. Mental health professionals and ministry counselors have long observed that highly emotional moments involving public leaders can result from several pressures building over time rather than a single event alone. Physical fatigue, emotional exhaustion, and ongoing psychological stress can all combine to create overwhelming situations. Many commentators suggested that if the reports surrounding the service were accurate, the sudden public attention placed Haddon in an exceptionally vulnerable position. Surrounded by church members, cameras, and millions of online viewers, every emotion became visible. For many watching, the moment represented far more than someone becoming physically overwhelmed. It reflected the accumulated weight of responsibility, expectation, and personal strain finally becoming impossible to hide. Public reaction remained deeply divided. Some people admired Haddon for addressing the situation instead of disappearing from public view. They argued that spiritual leaders are still human beings who experience pain, disappointment, and emotional struggles like everyone else. Others questioned how the entire situation had unfolded, wondering whether such deeply personal matters should ever have become part of a live church service. Online discussions quickly grew as viewers analyzed his words, facial expressions, body language, and response during the reported incident, often reaching different conclusions from the same footage. The situation also underscored the challenge of balancing personal privacy with public accountability. As both a pastor and gospel artist, Haddon has long served in highly visible roles where transparency and moral leadership are expected. For many, the incident raised broader questions about whether spiritual leaders can remain authentic while carrying such significant public expectations. Is it possible to protect private family matters when every moment is subject to public discussion? And where should the line between accountability and personal privacy truly be drawn? Whatever answers eventually emerge, one thing became clear. This reported incident represented more than a difficult day in church. It marked a turning point that could influence both Haddon's ministry and his public reputation for years to come. The choices made afterward, the conversations that followed, and the efforts to rebuild trust would ultimately shape how this chapter is remembered. Would it become a story of personal restoration, a lesson in the pressures of leadership, or a reminder of how quickly private struggles can become public headlines? That question remained unanswered, leaving many waiting to see what would happen next. How did the situation affect the church community? Keep watching to find out. A community divided. The reported incident quickly spread across social media, drawing mixed reactions from supporters, critics, pastors, and gospel fans alike. Many offered prayers and compassion, reminding others that spiritual leaders face real struggles behind the scenes. Others questioned leadership, accountability, and whether personal issues should become public discussions. As videos and commentary continued circulating, the conversation grew far beyond one church service. For many congregants, the moment challenged long-held views about faith, trust, and leadership. But instead of ending the story, the public response opened an even bigger debate, leaving many wondering what Deitrick Haddon's next chapter would reveal. So, what do you think about Deitrick Haddon's wife's revelation? Let us know in the comments section below. In the end, this story reminds us that headlines rarely tell the whole story. Whether these events lead to healing or lasting division remains to be seen. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more stories and conversations that go beyond the headlines.